Anora, directed by Sean Baker, is a romantic comedy drama that has taken the film world by storm. The film stars Mikey Madison as Annie, a Brooklyn stripper who impulsively marries Ivan, the son of a Russian oligarch, portrayed by Mark Adelstein. Their whirlwind romance leads them from New York to Las Vegas, but their newfound union faces significant challenges, especially from Ivan's disapproving family. Anora premiered at the 77th Cannes Film Festival on May 21st, 2024, where it received critical acclaim and won the Palme d'Or. It was released theatrically on October 18th, 2024 by Neon. The film has been lauded for its audacious and thrilling take on a modern-day Cinderella story. At the 97th Academy Awards, Anora clinched 5 Oscars, including Best Picture, Best Director, Best Original Screenplay, Best Film Editing for Sean Baker, and Best Actress for Mikey Madison.
Welcome to First Take, where we break down the latest releases and help you decide if they're worth your time. I'm Sean Weathers.
And I'm Angus Combe. Today we're diving into Anora, the indie film that swept the Oscars. Is it the belle of the ball or a big pumpkin? Let's find out.
Movies about young women in the sex industry tend to have a lot of issues. Too often, they feel like they're written by people who don't actually understand the culture or the environment they're portraying. The dialogue is off, the slang is outdated, and there's always hesitation about how far they're willing to go. You either get a lead actress who won't do nudity, forcing the film to work around it, or you get body double or background nudity that feels like a compromise. But Anora avoids those pitfalls. The music, the attitude, the aesthetic, it all fits. It commits in a way that most films won't. If you're going to tell this story, you have to be authentic. And Sean Baker gets that. That said, if you're going to go this route, go all in. Showgirls went all in. Anora comes close enough, but it still pulls back in certain places.
It definitely has style and nerve, and it's not afraid of being what it is. But to be honest, for the first 40 minutes or so, I felt like I was watching a Tinto Brass movie. For those who don't know, that's basically European erotica. And the plots of some of those movies aren't far from this. A woman working in a house of ill repute meets a nice rich man who wants to marry her and take her away from all that. It often doesn't work out well in those movies, and, well, I don't want to spoil anything, but let's just say things don't go as smoothly as our main characters might have hoped.
The first half of the film feels like a chaotic blend of kids, showgirls, and a high-energy music video. It's all sex, drugs, and debauchery. And while I enjoyed it, the indulgence and the access are things I've explored in my own films, it does feel a bit meandering at times. There are a lot of repetitive montages, and you start wondering if the film is actually going anywhere. And here's the thing. If Annie is going to buy into the fantasy that Ivan genuinely loves her and wants to take care of her, then the movie needed to make her life look worse. It should have given her real desperation, like being behind on rent, about to be evicted, or on the verge of losing her job. But instead, she's portrayed as too savvy and too in control for the premise to fully land. The film is over 2 hours long, so there was more than enough time to establish this, and yet it doesn't. It's a huge missed opportunity.
The movie is described as a romantic comedy, but I didn't find it romantic or funny. The only part of the movie that could be considered remotely romantic is the first 40 minutes or so, and that felt more like a business arrangement than a romance. At no point did I believe that either of the characters was actually falling in love with the other. And honestly, how could Annie love or see any real future with Ivan? He's a privileged rich guy from Russia, an immature man-child who indulges endlessly in everything from drugs to booze to sex. He doesn't care if he loses a bundle gambling. Money means nothing to him. And after spending 1 week with him, surely she must see that he's the kind of guy who's going to wind up dead on a bathroom floor somewhere. His lifestyle is going to kill him, and probably soon.
By the time we reach the final act, the film is at its strongest. It strips down to focus almost entirely on Annie, and that's where it hits the hardest. The heartbreak, the emotional weight, it all builds to a devastating climax that makes it clear why Mikey Madison won the Oscar.
Anora, or Annie as she prefers to be called, is by far the most sympathetic character. But even she can be grating and annoying at times. We don't learn a lot about her as a person, except that she's tough and she seems to be really good at her job. Mikey Madison does a good job with what she's given, and she's totally believable in the part. I do feel for her character a couple of times, but at the end of the day, I don't like Annie much more than any of the other characters in this film, most of whom I find wholly unsympathetic.
A lot of scenes feel like they were fully or partially improvised. It gives the movie this raw, unpredictable energy, kind of like if John Cassavetes directed Pretty Woman. That sense of realism makes the film more immersive, but it also means the pacing can feel a bit loose at times.
Yeah, it almost made me feel like I was watching a reality show. Real people caught on camera. It was gripping at times, but I did feel a bit like it was going in circles. I guess I might have preferred a little more of a traditional arc. I felt that this movie, at almost 2.5 hours, took a long time to get where it was going, and where it was going was fairly predictable. It was actually a bit of an endurance test for me to sit through it.
How am I going to feel about this movie weeks, months, or a year from now? I don't know. Should it have won Best Picture over Dune 2? Was it worth the hype? Again, I'm not sure. Only time will tell ultimately, but a lot of worse movies have won Best Picture. It's available on a few different platforms for $6, and while I enjoyed it, I'd still recommend waiting for it to be free on your streaming service.
I expected to like Anora much more than I did, and clearly most people liked it a lot more than I did. So I would say if you want to see it, go ahead and check it out. You will probably like it more than me. On the other hand, if you suspect that you might be a member of that small club that I seem to be in, use the $6 to tip your stripper. What did you think of Anora? Did it live up to the Oscar hype, or did it fall short for you? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoy these reviews, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss an episode of First Take.